We mentioned it at the top of the show. President Trump reached a deal with the leaders of Canada and Mexico to delay a 25% tariff on nearly all goods from their countries for 1 month in exchange for increased border security. We heard today that Canada is going to be implementing a $1.3 billion border plan, the goal to reinforce the border. Great news. But here's the thing. That announcement, well, it was announced back in December under the Biden administration. And Mexico took a very similar action on the border back in 2021, also under President Biden. None of this is new. Donald Trump, who today was under huge negative headline and markets pressure, jumped on the offers from Mexico and Canada, and he basically just put a new piece of wrapping paper and a bow on stuff that was already lying around the house. For more, let's bring in Bharat Ramamurthy, former National Economic Council Deputy Director of the past administration, and Brenda Greeley still with us. Bharat, I'm going to take a deep breath. I need you to explain the logic of sending markets into panic mode, antagonizing our closest allies, prompting the people of Canada and Mexico to publicly rage against us in exchange for border security commitments that were already offered up or already happened in the past. Is there something I'm missing here?
No, I think you covered it perfectly. It's a sort of classic Trump. It's a lot of sizzle, but not a lot of steak when you look at under the packaging. As you said, these are agreements that both Mexico and Canada made under the Biden administration. I appreciate President Trump acknowledging that those were good deals that President Biden made for our border security. But there's nothing new here. There's no concession from either Mexico or Canada. But as you said, it did create a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty is going to trickle down into all sorts of negative effects for consumers, even if those tariffs don't go into effect. I mean, just imagine if you are a home builder trying to decide whether to make a big investment in building new properties in the United States, and you're not sure whether the cost of some of your materials is going to go up by 10, 15, 20% because of new tariffs on imports from Canada, of lumber from Canada, let's say. It's going to lead to a freeze in the market on the types of investments that we need, the types of investments we saw in the Biden administration that are necessary to solve some of the cost problems that we have and that Trump campaigned on. It's really pushing in completely the opposite direction from the campaign.
But, Brendan, you said it in the last segment. We're living in a time of information wars. Yeah. And Donald Trump is going to present this today, like he did with Colombia last week. I won. And the truth is, the average person, you or me, do we really know what Canada and Mexico's commitments were a month ago? I don't. You probably don't either.
I mean, I don't either. It looks like, we got Operation Mountie and Operation Federales. But the bigger problem is it wasn't even clear what he was asking, right? So we all agree we didn't get anything. It was the dumbest trade war in history, to quote the Wall Street Journal. But there are very real issues that you might choose to negotiate with Canada. Access to their dairy markets, access to their financial markets, right? These are things you could have asked for if you happen to want to start a trade war with our biggest and best and closest ally and trading partner. He didn't make those asks. So all of this is, again, we can't confuse this with policy. There are very real issues with the trading regime in this country for the last 40 years. There are changes that need to be made. They have to be paired with industrial policies. They have to be paired with very targeted tariffs, if that's indeed what you want to do. That's not what he's doing at all. This is just dominance theater. What he wants is to say a thing that makes another man back down, and that's what he got with Justin Trudeau. He exists, Trump. He sustains himself from three things: Diet Coke, and overcooked steaks, and dominance theater. And that's all that this is. None of this is policy. We cannot make the mistake.
But it's good politics for him, and he's a skilled politician.
Yeah, but you can fool your base. You cannot fool global investors. And I think the most important thing that happened for him in the last 24 hours is that the S&P 500 dipped on the threats of the tariff, but it didn't recover when he took the tariff away. There was a
Say that one more time for our audience.
All right. So investors are looking at America, and a lot of what they invest on, you and I know this, having covered this for years, is feels and uncertainty. A lot of it's not hard analysis. A lot of it is what is happening. So when the tariffs were announced, 25% on Canada and Mexico, our closest trading partners, there was a dip in the S&P 500. Okay, so he's clearly paying attention to that. The tariffs go away. We've got a 30-day pause, but they didn't recover to their previous levels.
Because lots of investors said, Bharat, I'm not getting back on the crazy train. But at midnight tonight, there will be some tariffs imposed. A 10% tariff will be placed on all Chinese imports. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, about 15% of imports into the United States come from China. A lot of that goes into manufacturing processes in the United States. So there's sort of intermediate goods that are necessary for U.S. manufacturers to provide a completed product. And so if these actually go into effect, what you're likely to see is a reduction in U.S. manufacturing and an increase in costs that are ultimately borne by U.S. consumers. Now, look, I think that there are all sorts of trading issues with China. In the Biden administration, we put tariffs on a very, very small subset of goods from China because we felt like it was important to protect our steel industry, to take on some subsidies that China was putting on its industry to make sure that trading was fair. But an across-the-board tariff doesn't really serve any strategic purpose other than raising costs for American manufacturers and American consumers. And again, Donald Trump won, I believe, in large part because of the cost of living. And if a year from now we're still looking at 7% rates on housing, high costs at the grocery store, and in addition to that, new costs on consumer goods, I think he's going to be in a lot of political trouble, even though he may be winning the news cycle.
Well, our audience is not in trouble tonight because you two made us smarter.